Welcome to the Apptics 101 series. Today, we will explore crash analytics and APM application performance monitoring in Zoho Apptics. We will learn how crash analytics and APM can help you optimize your app's health and performance. Before we start our today's session, let's quickly recap what we covered in our last webinar. We saw the importance of application analytics and how it works, and then the common pain points and issues faced by app developers, an introduction to Zoho Apptics, Zoho's application analytics solution, along with an overview of its features. In today's webinar, we will dive deep into crash reporting and non-fatal errors. What are they and why they matter? Symbols and mappings. Why are they essential? Remote logger. What it is and how it helps. An introduction to APM, application performance monitoring. Alright, so let's talk about crash reporting. So what are app crashes and how monitoring them helps? App crashes are errors or issues that occur within the app and force the app to quit while you are using it. An efficient crash reporting tool helps app developers to find and fix these problems in our app. Once an app crashes, the app automatically sends an error report to the crash reporting tool. This error report will include all information such as when the crash happened, what kind of device and operating system was being used, and so on. This way, you can understand what went wrong and fix the problem to make the app more stable and reliable for your users. An efficient crash reporting and monitoring tool will help you quickly identify errors and you can fix them, which makes your app more reliable. Crash reporting or error monitoring, as most commonly known in the market, helps you to identify the root cause of issue in real time. We can understand why the problem occurred and address it immediately. Think about it. If we didn't have crash reporting, or the problems in our app could go unnoticed for a long time, which in turn will frustrate your users and eventually it will lead to your app being uninstalled from the user's device. So, in a nutshell, crash reporting is essential for our app to keep running smoothly and error free to keep a life simple. Now let's learn how crash reporting works in Zoho Apptics. In Apptics, using crash reports, you can quickly pinpoint the root cause behind the issues and understand the various attributes affected by each issue. The crash reports include detailed information such as unique issues, unique devices, the app version in which the issue occurred, the OS version, the specific devices that were impacted, and the model of these devices. Now let's see how to use the crash dashboard in Zoho Apptics. As we saw in our last webinar, to be able to access Zoho Apptics, you first need to create a portal, a project, and add your app to the project. So first, before we move on to the console, we need to complete the Crash SDK integration in our app. Once the integration is done, crash reports can be seen in the Apptics console. So let's start with Android and see how you can integrate the Crash SDK. As we saw in the last webinar, to be able to access Zoho Apptics, you first need to create a portal, a project, and then add your app to the project. Before we move on to the console, we need to complete the Crash SDK integration in our app. Once the integration is done, crash reports can be seen in the Apptics console. Let's start with Android. Before that, let me show how to open the SDK guide. Go to our Zoho Apptics website and scroll down, and you can see the SDK guide here. Click on it and click on Android. Add the SDK essential for enabling crash tracking and reporting features in your app. To set this up, we usually recommend using Apptics BOM. Open your build Gradle file and add the Apptics BOM and crash tracker dependency. Replace the latest version with the version mentioned in this SDK integration guide. And that's it. You're done. Now let's see how to do it for iOS apps. You need to install Apptics Crash Kit, which helps your app communicate with Zoho Apptics to send crash data. Open your app's Xcode project file and the pod file, which is a file that helps to manage the libraries. Then add the following lines that is given here in the integration guide. And that's it. You're done. Apptics Crash Kit automatically tracks crashes using the init method once the initialization is done. Now let's see how to use the crash console in Zoho Apptics. Log on to your Zoho Apptics account. Now once you are in the dashboard, navigate to the quality section and click on crashes. You will be directed to the crashes dashboard. Now in this dashboard, you can see the number of crashes that happened, and you can see the number of unique issues and unique devices and crash-free devices. Now let's break down one by one. Each of this crash is categorized by unique issues, which means these are specific problems encountered by users that are counted once per occurrence, no matter how many users experience the same issue. For instance, if there's a login error affecting 50 users due to a server issue, it is counted as one unique issue. But if there's another issue, like a crash during photo uploads, that is considered separately. Next to unique issues, you'll notice the count of unique devices affected. A unique device refers to an individual smartphone, tablet, or computer interacting with your app. This metric gives you insight into your app's reach. For example, if you use an app on your phone 10 times in one day, analytics will count it as one unique device for that day. Lastly, you can see the percentage of devices that did not experience any crash within the selected date range. Now, if you scroll down, you have two graphs. In one, you can see the graph that shows crashes that happen day-wise across all platforms. Here in this graph, you can see the distribution of crash types. Now, if you scroll down the dashboard, you will find the list of unique issues, each detailed with descriptions, impacted versions, impacted OS versions, app versions, and more. Now, suppose if I click on one individual issue, it will open up to a detailed view where you can see the timeline of crashes, affected devices, and the app version affected. When you click on the crash log, you can download it. Now, why is this crash log needed? You can download this crash log for a deeper analysis. It contains data about the crash, including the error messages, system information, and other relevant details which are very necessary for an in-depth analysis. Now, if you want to diagnose the issue further, please click on this raw text button. Now here, you can see the raw data that provides details of what happened during the crash, which can be invaluable for technical analysis. To see a list of devices which were affected by the issue, click on the Show List button next to affected devices. This will display a list of all impacted devices along with details such as device model, app version, OS version, device ID, the time the crash happened, and when it was received in Apptics. This information helps you understand the scope and impact of issue across different devices and platforms. For more specific information, click on an individual affected device from the list. This action will open a detailed timeline of crashes for the particular device. The timeline includes information about the device's state and environment at the time of each crash. The timeline provides various details about the device states, including the SDK version, app release version, OS version, type, battery level at the time of crash, network type or Wi-Fi strength, screen orientation, available RAM size, device ID, and the device model. To diagnose the issue further, if you scroll down, you can view traces of events or API calls and screens visited during the crash. If personal information is available, you can access it by clicking this icon, which shows the user ID associated with the crash and email address of a user who experienced the crash. For this device timeline, the personal information is not available. Crash reporting is like a radar for app developers. It helps them find and fix issues. When an app crashes, it's like hitting a roadblock. Everything stops, and user might lose their work or they have to restart it. However, sometimes not all issues are serious. Sometimes apps encounter smaller problems that don't cause them to crash but still make them run less smoothly. But how to identify these errors? This is where non-fatal error reporting comes into play. Unlike crashes that completely stop an app, non-fatal errors are issues that allow the app to continue running but with unexpected behaviors affecting certain features. To handle this, Zoho Apptics offers a feature called non-fatal. When an error happens and your app catches it using a try-catch block, instead of just handling it silently, Apptics can record details about that error. It collects information like what caused the error, where it happened in your app, and other useful data. This recorded information is then sent securely to Apptics servers. This way, developers can see a log or a report of all these issues in one place. It helps them understand what's going wrong with your app, and even if it doesn't crash completely, you can see what is the wrong thing that's happening with your app. Non-fatal console is similar to that of crashes that we just saw and explored. Making sure your app handles smaller issues smoothly is very important for keeping things running well. Now, let's move on to our next topic, symbols and mappings. So what about protecting your code from being copied or tampered with? This is a very common concern among developers. To address this issue, we have obfuscation for Android and symbolication for iOS. Both serve the same purpose. It changes the names of elements in your program, making it harder for others to understand how it works. This way, it protects your software from being easily copied or tampered with. It also helps make your program smaller and faster because it removes extra information that isn't needed for it to run. However, when you obfuscate or symbolicate your code, you'll also need to deobfuscate it or desymbolicate it, especially when you're dealing with crash reports. Usually, when an error occurs, the stack trace you will get, it will contain these obfuscated names. So it makes it difficult for you to identify where the issue originated. To deobfuscate or desymbolicate the crash reports, We use tools like DSIM files for iOS apps and mapping files from ProGuard for Android. They turn these reports into something you can read and understand. Let's now see how to use these tools in the Apptics console. First, navigate to the Quality section and click on Symbols and Mappings. Here, when you click on this button, you can see the obfuscation tools available for the native and cross-platform. This is where you manage the obfuscation tools for both native and cross-platform applications. For Android, we use ProGuard, and for iOS, we use DSIM files. And for cross-platforms, we use React Native Source Map and Flutter mapping. Mapping files and DSIM files for Android and iOS are respectfully uploaded automatically. However, in certain rare scenarios, if the files aren't uploaded, you can upload them manually from here. Just click on the Upload button and a pop-up window like this will appear. Now, select the appropriate app version from the drop-down menu. This should match the version of the app for which you're uploading the mapping file. Once you have selected the app version, now choose the file and browse to the location of the generated mapping txt file. Once you've done selecting the file, click on Upload. The new mapping file will be uploaded to Zoho Apptics. Now that we have covered how symbols and mapping help us decode crash reports effectively, we will next be talking about Remote Logger and how it can help you. As developers, we make sure that our users enjoy a smooth experience while using our app. But sometimes, bugs slip through the crack during testings. That is where Remote Logger comes in. What is Remote Logger? Remote Logger provides real-time logs directly from users' devices. Imagine this. Your app encounters an unexpected issue in the wild. With Remote Logger, you get instant access to logs right from the user's device. These logs are sent instantly as they happen, giving you a clear view of what's going on without needing to reproduce the problem yourself. Let's dive now into how you can use Remote Logger in the Apptics console. First, you need to head over to the Quality tab and click on Remote Logger. Here, you'll notice that we have a very good handy search bar where you can search and view logs based on different attributes. Next, it is important to select the date range right here, and the relevant time zone for the logs you want to review. This will help you to narrow down your search to a specific period. And now, here it's where it gets interesting. You can filter the logs based on various criteria such as the logger type, the device or the user ID, the platform, OS version, app version, and the device model. Once you have filled in the required criteria, hit the search button, and this will fetch a list of logs like this that match your criteria. Each log gives you detailed information like log properties, file name, platform, app version, OS version, device model and ID, log time, session start time, and of course the log message itself. This level of detail is very, very crucial for understanding the context of issues reported by users. Alright, now let's talk about Application Performance Monitoring, or APM, for your iOS app. APM is all about checking the vital signs. It checks things like how much battery your app uses, how fast it starts up, how much memory it uses, and how smoothly it scrolls. By monitoring these factors, you can fix any issues early on. And hey, not only does the APM help us avoid these app related headaches, but it also ensures your users get a snappy, reliable experience every time they tap into your app. To quickly summarize today's session, we explored what is crash reporting and non fatal errors, why do you need symbols and mapping, how to use a remote logger, and introduction to APM. We will soon meet you in the upcoming webinars. Until then, happy learning!